Why are you excited to be here tonight?
Because I'm just excited.
Yeah. No other explanation. Now, I do believe, tell me the truth. Is it true that your dad has a ringside seat, but didn't get you guys ringside seats?
That is true, but it's because of his YouTube channel, okay? It's his YouTube, okay?
Her dad's an influencer. Let him go, guys. But your dad's awesome, right?
Yeah.
See, he's awesome! Yeah! Give it up for Claire. Thank you so much, Claire. High five. Yeah!
Can you believe that there's some people in this world that did not tune in to the Alliance Vlog podcast? Shame on you! Shame on you! My name is Ella Indy, and I'm one half of the NWA Women's World Tag Team Champion. And I'm Kinsey Page, the other half of the NWA World Women's Tag Team Champion. And you better go listen to the Alliance Vlog, what is it called? The podcast, period. Or you're ugly. Period. You're Power approved.
What is up, friends? Welcome to the Alliance Guys podcast. No, the pre-party with J-Cal. Man, where's my brain? Hey, it's Tuesday. That means it's the pre-party, and I'm your host, J-Cal. And each and every Tuesday, I come to you, that hashtag NWA fam, to talk all things National Wrestling Alliance. And I hope you guys are here to join me, to chat with me as we get ready for Power. Now, some of you already watched it. The show goes live on the CW app every Tuesday, I believe at 7 a.m. But your boy Jay watches it after the podcast. In fact, you can join me live in our Discord. Link is in the bio. And we talk all things NWA. And we watch Power there every Tuesday after the live episode. I see some of my pals are already in the chat, so let's say what's up to Steve G. Noob is in the house. Media Mike M5 is here, not to be confused with Media Matt, which was a creation of my own mind. Rosville's in the house. Mike says, "Damn, Jay, you blasted loud." I blasted loud? It must be because of this W, brother. I'm all fired up on W and Sprite. I don't know. Man, you don't let your wife wear your hat. It comes back with hair on it and dog fur and whatever else she decided to pick up. Yeah, so this is the pre-party. And like I said, every Tuesday I come to you to talk NWA. What is up, everyone? I hope you had a good weekend. If you hadn't checked it out already, on Monday I spoke to a good friend of mine, Andrew Pacina, the owner of Epic Pro Wrestling, based out of here in Los Angeles, California. They have the big show coming up on June the 2nd. That will be available on Triller after the fact, or you can go there live. The Don Quixote Arena down there in Los Angeles, Boyle Heights. Make sure if you're check that out. If you just want to hear some two dudes talk about Southern California wrestling, I highly recommend it. It's in the videos here on the show. So yeah, man, it's been a very interesting week as we head closer and closer to the Crockett Cup, which is coming up less than a month away. Forney, Texas. I don't know what that's short for, Forney, Texas. But I'm gonna be there. My pal DKM will be there. We're gonna be there live to talk and watch the Crockett Cup. Are you gonna be there? Who's going to the Crockett Cup? I can't be the only one. Yeah, blame Debbie. I see your guys' comments. Let's get to them, right? Willie Bowen says, "Hey, J. Cal, Tyrus will be in the new Pirates of the Caribbean movie. He'll be playing the ship." Ship happens, man. Let's see. Dave Scooby says, welcome everyone. Like and share, comment, subscribe, help that algorithm. Someone told me once that they heard a younger audience refer to the algorithm as the Al Gore rhythm. And forever that is stained in my brain. Our pal Rosville said that last episode was Toilet Bowl. Hard Times was Bammer. I think maybe Bummer. That last episode was a Toilet Bowl. Well, they can't all be winners. I haven't seen it yet. I mean, what do we know about this week's episode of Power? We know that this week's episode of Power is going to feature a intergender 6-person tag team match. I guess that's the best way to describe it. We know that Max the Impaler, along with their partners in the Miserably Faithful, Judais and Sal, will be taking part of a match along with Mims and Dak Draper, formerly known as Magnum Muscle. I guess they're still currently known as Magnum Muscle. They'll be teaming with Carson Drake. I'm going to sneeze. Hold on 1 second. Sorry, allergy season. We also know that we'll get to some more of the matches in just a minute. I normally like to talk a little bit of NWA first and foremost. Roswell says, I watched the last one, not this episode. Okay. I haven't seen this episode yet. As you guys know, like I said, I watch these in the live chat. We watch them together. Anyone who's bold enough to come into the Discord, we watch these together. So I'll be watching that after this episode airs. Thanks, Steve G. Thank you, Steve. But what do we know what's going on this week for the NWA? We know that there's 2 events coming up. Obviously, there's 2 different events. And I should say there's really only one NWA event and one event that might lead to more. But we know that this weekend, the good folks at Joe Kazana Promotions are going to be running Harrying Heat. And I don't have all the graphics. In fact, this was a makeshift one that I just kind of threw together. The Harriman Heat featuring the Joe Kazana Promotions Southern Eastern Heavyweight Championship match between Jay Bradley challenging champion Silas Mason. We also know that the Country Gentlemen will take on the Southern Six. We have a few other matches that are also going to happen. The other big advertised match is Axton Ray and Gustavo taking on Weaver and the Pain. So that's going to happen this weekend. And of course, that's great. We are seeing the affiliates really get out there and start running more events. But we know that the owner of the NWA is not going to be in Harrisman. He's going to be in Seaverville at Crossfire Wrestling. Now, what's going on with Crossfire Wrestling? We've talked a little bit about this in the past, and if you've heard this before, then let this be a refresher. But Crossfire Wrestling is the wrestling promotion that is actually operated by Kenzie and Kylie Page. It used to be ran by their parents, their father, who ran that promotion, but now has gifted it or left it or promoted the promotion to the daughters, and they're now running the show. And the interesting thing about this event that's happening also on this Saturday, the 26th, besides William Patrick Corgan being there live for the event, we're also going to see Kenzie and Kylie take on the tag team of the Carnies. Now, the Carnies have been a tag team synonymous with the NWA in most recent years, in the past having appeared in promotions like Southern, what was it? SAW, NWA SAW, Southern Atlantic Wrestling. I don't know what exactly the SAW stood for, but NWA SAW, they've been a part of NWA Main Event in the past. And of course, most recently, they've been working with, they did make appearances in Billy Corgan's NWA. So that match is taking place. Also, kind of interesting that the champion of Crossfire Wrestling is former WCW Cruiserweight champion Juventud Guerrera, and he'll be defending his title against Joey Janela. And that all takes place at Crossfire Championship Wrestling this Friday in Seaverville, Tennessee, again, which is not not anywhere really close to, I believe it's Hammersville, Harriman, Tennessee. So there is that's kind of interesting to see what's happening on that front, and what we could assume that means, and this is a huge assumption, but when William Patrick Corgan has appeared at these live events, two things have happened. Well, technically, one thing has happened. It's an offer to join the alliance, and not this alliance, but that alliance, to join the NWA. Now, we saw this before, of course, with Joe Kazana Promotions. Late last year, they were offered a position with the NWA. Exodus Pro also offered a position with the NWA. In fact, it was actually Exodus Pro who was the first affiliate in the territory system, and then Joe Kazana Promotions. Next up was FTW Wrestling in Florida, which that was the offer, that was the suggestion, and it fell through. FTW did not become an affiliate of the NWA, or a territory, I should say. But Brian Idol, who is more or less running FTW, him and Billy co-promoted the events in Chicago as part of NWA Chicago. So it kind of makes it seem like we are going to see another territory, which, like, let's be honest, this is a really cool thing for the NWA. Again, more positions, more places, more opportunities for the champions is always a good thing. And I really feel like the NWA could benefit from having this relationship with Crossfire. Crossfire's already been using some of the members of the NWA. In the past, they've used Silas Mason. They've used the Southern Six. But this would also grant them an opportunity to showcase title matches. And, of course, getting their wrestlers in front of the NWA audience as well, I think, is a beneficial thing. So that's happening in 3 days on Friday. Not even this weekend. It's happening Friday. So that's a big deal, I think, for the NWA, for the Page, the Henry family, the Page sisters. I think that's a really cool deal for them. And then I saw in the comments, Dave Scooby mentioned the King Bees winning the Mission Pro tag team titles. And I think that's a pretty big deal too. There had in the past been a pipeline, it seemed, from Mission Pro to the NWA. Now we know that former Mission Pro tag team champions, the Renegade Twins, came to the NWA, won the tag titles. And here we see Charity, was it? Now I got them mixed up. Now we see the Twins, not the Twins, Jesus. Now we see Danny B and Charity King with the tag titles, both the NWA Tag Team Champions and the Mission Pro Tag Team Champions. Again, they are not the first to simultaneously hold both titles, as the Renegade Twins formerly had held both titles. We know that former NWA Women's Tag Team Champion Maddie Rinkowski was also a Mission Pro Tag Team Champion. And we know that that pipeline between Mission Pro and the NWA has been very active, as we've seen Tiffany Nieves come from Mission Pro to the NWA. Of course, Thunder Rosa was the first. Mission Pro is her company, but she came to the NWA and was always, represented the NWA title at Mission Pro. And now we're seeing the Mission Pro Tag Team Champions are also now the NWA Women Tag Team Champions. And we still see, of course, Tiffany Nieves, who is the Mission Pro Women's Champion, appear on Power as well. So, I don't know if it's an actual absolute pipeline, but it does feel like there are a lot of movement between Mission Pro and the NWA. And not that this is a predetermined factor, but having access to a lot of women talent, it would be super beneficial for the NWA. And if that pipeline is not official, maybe the NWA should look into making that official. Maybe some sort of an arrangement or an agreement could happen between the two promotions, because I think it'd be mutually beneficial, considering we're seeing a lot of the Mission Pro talent make their way to the NWA. But what if it was under some sort of official capacity where, Brian Rosas, who runs Mission Pro with Thunder Rosa, could perhaps maybe be a scout and help scout talent to find for the NWA to bring them through Mission Pro. Maybe Mission Pro being like a stepping stone to the NWA for women's wrestling. I think that'd be mutually beneficial. What do you guys think? Steve G says, where are the Renegade Twins now? The last time I saw the Renegade Twins, they were in Ring of Honor. I do believe they had a few matches with AEW as well, but I mean, that's the same thing at this point. AEW and Ring of Honor, both owned by Tony Khan. I feel like that's saying the same thing. It's a little bit repetitive. I don't know if they're officially under contract, but we know that that's where they have been appearing. Of course, Team Hex is out and we're doing a lot of those shows for Ring of Honor as well. So that'll be interesting to see how that pans out. Again, when you look at that Mission Pro roster, in the past, we've seen Genocide. We've seen, again, Thunder Rosa. Sky Blue had spent some time in Mission Pro before she came to the NWA. And it just felt like there was a working agreement between the NWA and Mission Pro. I don't think Tony Khan would be happy about that. Noob, are you saying Tony Khan having a relationship or with the NWA working with Mission Pro? I don't think that'd be a problem. I'm not saying that the NWA can land Thunder Rosa back in the ring while she's still competing for AEW, but I don't think it would impact anybody if talent from Mission Pro were to work with the NWA. There is no formal agreement, at least nothing public, that states that talent from Mission Pro is exclusive to AEW. And if that's the case, well, good for them, because I mean, you got to pay to play. And so if the talent are getting paid to work exclusively for AEW, then that's beautiful. But I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's how it is right now. So we did talk a little bit about Harriman Heat. And then, of course, next month, May 10th, we have the showdown at Sunbright, where we're going to see more NWA talent. Sal the Pal makes his return. We have, it looks like Jack Stain will be there. Chris Silvio, of course, Silas Mason, who is the Joe Kazana Promotions champion. The Country Gentlemen, who are regulars for the promotion. The Heat Seekers, who are regulars for the promotion. The Stu Crew, and even Freya the Slaya, who at one point was the Joe Kazana Promotions women's champion. And again, what is this building towards? We're seeing these allegiances, these alliances, these territories that are really kind of opening up doors for the NWA. Now, the Stu Crew, going back to that poster, you can see the Stu Crew, one of the top tag teams in Joe Kazana Promotions. They made their debut at the NWA TV tapings recently. We know that this is a good move for the NWA to have these, pipelines to the independent wrestling scene, because what they're doing is they're getting an opportunity to see talent up close and firsthand, and getting these wrestlers into the NWA. I think it's going to be really important, especially as the NWA discovers more and more talent. Going back to Thunder Rosa, it was not. It was no secret that the AEW was interested in Thunder Rosa. It was no secret that a lot of the talent from the NWA had been poached by either AEW or WWE. I mean, Eli Drake, now LA Knight. You could look at Ricky Starks, Eddie Kingston. You could look at Zicky Dice in his short time with TNA Wrestling. A lot of these guys have gone on to bigger and better things. Camille has been sitting out for a while. I believe that an announcement will be pending soon of her signing somewhere. Where that'll be, we don't really know just yet. But, I believe there's a reason why she has stepped out of the spotlight of the NWA. There was no, at least on the surface publicly, there was no ill will towards either party. And the fact that her husband is still very much involved with the NWA, that being Tom Latimer, I don't think there's any bad blood there. But I believe that, Camille is getting herself right physically, mentally, and even spiritually before she embarks on her next journey in pro wrestling, whether that be, the TNA wrestling or AEW or the WWE, hell, even AAA or Stardom. I mean, there are promotions all across the world that could benefit from a talent like Camille. We don't know where she's going to end up next. Roswell says, when NWA ownership can't sign talent to long-term deals, it's just a place to stay busy until a call comes. Is that an issue booking-wise, you think? Roz, I don't necessarily agree with that, because we look at some of the long-term commitments that we've seen from some of the talents. Kerry Morton specifically is someone who's been very vocal about his contractual status with the NWA. We know that Camille finished up her contract last year and she made the conscious decision to not renew that contract. I think if she would have been willing to stick around, I bet the NWA would have been happy to have her back for another season or two with the NWA. And then you look at other talents like Steve G just mentioned, Natalia Markova. We know that she's not under contract. She has been on the record saying that she's not under contract. But people on contract, like the new NWA Junior Heavyweight Champion, Joe Alonzo, has famously said he manifested that. He was hoping for a contract. He got the contract. Silas Mason also, I believe he is under a contract. There's quite a few talent members in the NWA who I believe are still on contract. So with that being said, I don't think it's a place just to wait, but it's certainly a place to build your reputation. It's certainly a place to get exposure. I think it's certainly I'll get to that in just a second, Roswell. I certainly feel like it's an opportunity to grow your brand. I mean, that's what Camille did. Camille came to the NWA, and if you guys recall, she was the assassin, the insurance policy for Nick Aldis. Didn't say a word her first 2 years in the company, or maybe first year in the company. She basically was Nick Aldis's right-hand woman, and she played a pivotal role in Aldis retaining that title many of times. But I do believe that ultimately her goal was to get involved with wrestling. We saw her transition from just a silent bodyguard into a very prolific wrestler. Maybe not the greatest wrestler of all time, but certainly an entertaining one that could cut a decent promo, an amazing look, and was very skillful in the ring. We saw Camille go from just a 3-point stance, tackling, to like really getting in there and having some good matches with some of the best established talent that was available. I mean, Taya Valkyrie, Matt Cardona's wife, Chelsea Green, matches with Max, matches with quite a few good talents. I mean, even the match she had with Thunder Rosa was one of the better matches in all of NWA women matches at the time. So to put it bluntly, Camille did such a great job of building her character and building her brand up under the NWA banner. It was mutually beneficial. Don't get me wrong. It's not like she extorted the NWA for spotlight. The NWA benefited from having a champion like Camille, who not only took that title on the road and defended it everywhere she went, but also put on some of the best matches during her time in the NWA. So a lot of applause for Camille. But going back to just the NWA roster, I really feel like it's not so much just waiting to get signed. I think you take the opportunities that are presented to you, right? A guy like Silas Mason, nobody was talking about Silas Mason before his appearance in the NWA. And I'm not trying to bury that guy, because I think nothing but the highest of Silas Mason. But it wasn't until he was spotlighted by the National Wrestling Alliance that you heard other people start talking about him again. It's wild how popular I feel like he's gotten in such a short amount of time. And again, that opportunity was afforded to him by being a part of the NWA. You've got Kerry Morton, who's out here, proclaiming to be the next world champion of Game Changer Wrestling. And I don't think that might be so far-fetched. But the fact of the matter is that he gets his bread and butter in the NWA, and getting that exposure has really helped him grow as a performer, has given him opportunities to showcase who he is on a weekly basis. And that certainly opens up windows for him, opens up opportunity. There's a lot of guys in the NWA who I think are on the cusp of something bigger. But then there's also guys who I think, have opportunity to help grow the NWA. And both of those are, for our entertainment for now. But going back to what Roswell said, so then since that's not an issue, booking is purely dropping the ball with storyline and full execution. I mean, let's go back to Camille, because I think that's the best example. Where did the storylines or booking fail Camille? Camille, I feel, had a near perfect run with the NWA. And I don't know in any position, in any way, we could have done it differently, that anybody could have done it differently and had the same result as Camille leaving on such a high note. I just can't think of one, to be quite perfectly honest. Now, did they drop the ball with a guy like Chris Adonis? Well, I think so. Like, I don't know why Chris Adonis never was a serious contender for the 10 pounds of gold or even holding the title. The same way I look at Tom Latimer right now as somebody who, man, he should be, his name should be on the lips of EC3 every time he cuts a promo, and vice versa. Are there opportunities? Are there times when things have dropped, the wrestlers' storylines have been bad, or booking has been bad? Yeah, absolutely. I never lied to you guys and told you something that I didn't 100% believe in. And I'll say this: if you enjoy the NWA in everything that it has done, then the one person you have to thank for that is William Patrick Corgan. If you like where the NWA is and you think that they've done a great job in creating these future stars and new names, that's all thanks to Billy Corgan. If you think the NWA is suffering, if you think that the wrestling is subpar, or that the booking or storylines are not coming to fruition or benefiting the wrestlers, then there's one person to blame: Billy Corgan. He gets all the credit and he gets all the blame. This is his show. He has written, directed, produced, starred, co-starred, anything you could add under the bio. It's him. Of course, the wrestlers have an opportunity to shine in the spotlight, right? But if the storyline is garbage, then that shine is not going to, be graceful. And where have we seen a diamond in the rough in the NWA? We look at, you could say Silas Mason and the partnership between Silas and our friend Pollo Del Mar. A lot of people on the surface said, well, that's weird. That doesn't make any sense. But that pair had such heat in the best way possible. They had the Riz. I think that's what the kids say now. They had the Riz and had people talking about them. Could you imagine if we still had that dynamic with Pollo and Silas Mason? He's crazy. Pollo's a little crazy. It worked. It was magnificent. And it was one of those things where, who put that pair together? Maybe it wasn't, maybe Billy didn't suggest it by name, but it happened on his watch, so he gets the credit for it. Who put the Southern Six together? It was Billy. Who put Silas? Who got Silas Mason in the opportunity to challenge for the national title? Billy Corgan. And anything that's good about the NWA, it's Billy's fault. And everything that's bad about the NWA, it's Billy's fault. It's just how it is. Excuse me. Latimer hopefully takes that final spot. I hope so, man. I feel like if it's all said and done, if Latimer does not get at least a run with that 10 pounds of gold, I feel like the NWA let him down. There's one other person that I really feel should have been world's heavyweight champion. Well, there's a few of them, but one person sticks out to me is Damian Wayne. Damian Wayne did everything right as North American champion, as the North American Tag Team Champion, as the national champion. He held a lot of regional titles, but he never got a run with the 10 pounds of gold, and they did that for whatever reasons they chose to. But he was a guy that, ate, drank, and bled NWA. And it's a shame that he never got that title run. And that's very much how I feel about Tom Latimer at this moment. I feel like Tom's got to be the guy. Like, he's got to be the guy. At some point, they have to put the belt on him. Now, maybe they won't. It's not like Billy to go against the grain. Steve G says Eli Drake should have been champion. See, I agree with you on that too, but I feel like that was a victim of circumstances. Because had it not been for the global worldwide pandemic, that might have happened. I mean, Billy's even suggested that it was in the works, that it was planned. And there's talks that Eddie Kingston was supposed to become world's heavyweight champion. So I'm not going to come out here and say that, during the pandemic, those guys were missed opportunities. I think that, hey, if they were still running, those things would have happened. Yeah, the timing with Eli. And the same thing with Ricky Starks, maybe not the 10 pounds of gold, but, he briefly held the television title. And I think maybe had he been around a little bit longer, he could have been a multi-time champion. Imagine if he was around when they had the junior heavyweight title. He would have been a shoo-in. He'd have been perfect for that. Oh, excuse me. I was getting a little thirsty there. Willie says, J-Cal, do you think the NWA dropped the ball with Royce Isaac? He could have been NWA world champion. It's funny you mentioned Royce Isaac because we're going to have Royce Isaac come on the Alliance Guys podcast on May the 2nd, which is a week from Thursday. So I hope you guys will check that out because we're going to speak to Royce Isaac. Did they drop the ball with him? Royce Isaac was an NWA World Tag Team Champion. Him and Latimer were a very veritable force as a tag team. Did he get his just desserts? Absolutely not. But again, there was a pandemic. What would have happened if Royce had more time? He didn't quit the NWA before the pandemic hit. He was still very much a part of the NWA until things shut down. Same thing with Zicky Dice. The same thing with Ricky Starks, Eddie Kingston. All these guys had these opportunities present themselves after the pandemic had started. So who's to say where Royce would have ended up? Again, we talk about the junior heavyweight title. For the NWA, he was a little bit on the smaller side. I don't know if he would have fit the junior heavyweight division, but the TV title, the national title, the U.S. tag titles currently, I could see him being a multi-time champion for the NWA. I don't know about the 10 pounds of gold. He never really got a push as a single star, so it's kind of hard to quantify that really. But, where is he at now? Oh, he's just working New Japan Strong and Prestige, a very critically acclaimed wrestling promotion here on the West Coast, Seattle and Southern California. They kind of do shows both in Washington and California. He's appeared on a lot of independent shows. Royce Isaacs is a guy who I think is a great talent. Again, that's part of the reason why we want to talk to him next Thursday. Hope you guys will be there for that. Willie says the King Beings are also the women's tag team champions. Yeah, we did talk about that for a minute, Tyrus. Willie, sorry, I was seeing your next comment. Who let Tyrus be the NWA World Heavyweight Champion? Well, again, that was a Billy Corgan decision, Personally, I'd rather have the Pope hold the 10 pounds of gold, daddy. Could you imagine? Let's just fantasy book here for a minute. I know that's Dave Scooby's bag, but just for a minute, could you imagine having the Pope cash in the best of 7 series and had faced Nick Aldis? I got the shirt, the dream match shirt. It was a match that I wanted so very desperately. But could you imagine the Pope winning the 10 pounds of gold? Man, what a missed opportunity. The Pope was a guy who I think the NWA could have got behind, considering the fact that his promos were money. He looked great in the ring. He had a very suave and sophisticated promo. He sounded so natural on the mic. And I know he channeled Dusty Rhodes, and that's cool, but I feel like he was his own dude as well. And I feel like that was a guy who, again, the NWA could have gotten around and celebrated. And it's a guy who, he had been an Impact, his former WWE guy, but that would have been his first real opportunity to shine, I think, holding the 10 pounds of gold. And, he would have also been the first black champion since, Ron the Truth Killings to hold the title. Instead, we got, Tyrus. And not that I was never a big fan of Tyrus. And I don't feel like he got celebrated the way that Billy would have hoped he would have been celebrated. And he was almost a villain the entire time, whether it be his political ideology or the fact that he couldn't wrestle well. I don't feel like very many fans got behind Tyrus the way that Billy hoped that they would have. And that's just a fact of life. What about Willie Mack the Knife, NWA World Heavyweight Champion? Well, see, Willie Mack would have been. Look, I just saw Willie Mack this weekend in Mexico, man, and that guy, again, former national champion, due to some chicanery, was not able to continue with the NWA. Ended up dropping the title to Colt Boom Boom Cabana before the first season of Power. I felt like if Willie Mack would have been around, he could have been a great world's heavyweight champion. Absolutely. When I look at Willie Mack and see the cult-like following he has, and it's not just in Mexico or Southern California or in TNA Wrestling or Ring of Honor or anywhere he shows up, he gets over. He gets over. And Willie Mack in the NWA, he was over. He was incredibly over. By the way, if you go to Veamos Lucha Libre, I should put the video link in the description. I do have a match. I think, no, that's not it. There's a match from this past weekend that I posted of Willie Mack versus Dralistico, who used to be one of the wrestlers who wore the Mystico mask, and Metallic, who also competed in the WWE for a short time over this past weekend. It was a lot of fun in that match. Jamming the Music Man brings up, remember the feud they were setting up with Aldis and Marty Scurll in early 2020, then COVID hit? I mean, they really dodged a bullet there, to be quite honest. They did. The allegations of Marty Scurll came out later in 2020 before right as around COVID was hitting its stride here in the United States and seemingly pro wrestling was shut down. There was the speaking out movement that garnered a lot of attention, a lot of publicity, and it hurt a lot of things it hurt a lot of established pro wrestling stars. Marty Scurll was one of those guys, and although there was no formal legal charges presented against Marty Scurll and the face of public opinion, his legacy was tarnished. And I think that had the NWA had the belt on him, it would have been a bad look for the NWA, especially because it was so difficult to run a wrestling show that they wouldn't have had the opportunity to take that belt off of them. This would have been a very detrimental moment for the NWA, and I feel like that was a bad look for them. Losing Dave Lagana through allegations, no convictions, no arrests, no anything, just allegations. And that could have been the same thing with Marty Scurll. So it was to their benefit that did not happen. And the way that it was booked was such a weird way that they painted themselves into a corner, and had that show happened, Marty would have had to win the title. And they probably would have done a situation where he would have lost the title back to Aldis rather quickly. But obviously that never came to fruition. Shawn Mega says Willie Mack is a comedy wrestler. Sure. I mean, to a degree. I heard someone say, in fact, my guest last night, Andrew Pacina, likened him to Dusty Rhodes. I think that's an appropriate comparison. Also not just because of his African American ethnicity, his heritage, but also because of his style was very comparable to Junkyard Dog. Like, yeah, he had fun in the ring, but he was also very serious when he needed to be. And the way that Willie Mack moves in the ring, I felt like he could do a little bit of everything. And I think that was very interesting and makes wrestling a lot more fun. They were about to fill an arena on that night with Marty. Yeah, they were. They had, I can't remember the exact venue, but it was like a college basketball arena, like maybe like a 5,000 person arena. And they were doing pretty good with ticket sales. I had purchased my ticket. I was planning on going too. And obviously that didn't come to fruition. The only thing to get behind tires is a strong reinforced chair. Yeah, Marty is in AAA. And it's kind of interesting where Mexico seems to be the place where wrestlers with problematic pasts tend to end up. Marty Scurll has been wrestling for Lucha Libre AAA. El Patron is also in Lucha Libre AAA. We see Tessa Blanchard had been working with CMLL as of late. there's talks that she's coming back to TNA wrestling. It's wild, man. Paladin said women making a bunch of baseless accusations destroyed men's careers with no evidence provided equals a speak out movement. You know, Paladin, we're going to have to agree to disagree on this. Like, I don't ever want to blame victims. There were some people who were outed that deserved to be outed. There was people who had legitimate claims and things were really, really ugly. I very much believe that if somebody commits false allegations, that there should be repercussions for those people. But I also feel like, until all of the evidence has been presented, you should take everything very serious. I hear what you're saying. I don't necessarily agree with that. I'm a father of 3. I have 3 precious, beautiful daughters. And if something like that were to have happened to them, I would lose my fucking mind. I would tear down every brick, every door, everything I had to make sure that they received their justice. With that being said, if they had made false allegations, I would have done everything in my power to make sure that they served, were responsible for those allegations. It's an awful situation, and it's one that nobody should take lightly. Women who make false allegations should be punished, and men who are guilty of these allegations should be punished. I always root for the side of justice, and it's hard because especially with these he said, she said things, but I also feel like maybe we need to take a better look at these things when they're happening. I'm not going to read that other comment, Paladin. Sorry. I did not see the match. I saw bits and pieces of it. I was our friend of the show, Big Chris Dog, actually sent me the link, and I started to watch it, but got busy. Then I went to go watch it later, and it had been removed. But yeah, there's no doubt it's an instant classic. It's Will Ospreay, Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson. Danielson's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. I'm sure it was going to be an all-star classic. Let's see. Willie says, what if Rob Terry and Watts were in the NWA? Do you think they're candidates for the World Heavyweight title and National Heavyweight title? Rob Terry is a big dude. Watts is a big dude. I don't know how they'd be used. To me, right now, Silas Mason is probably the most homegrown talent in the NWA who is a viable candidate threat to upset EC3 and become the next world's heavyweight champion. But I don't know that that's where they're going with either of Silas Mason. Tom Latimer's another guy that I feel like should be in that conversation. So when you bring in somebody like Rob Terry or Watts, hell, Watts was awesome in United Wrestling Network, but they could bring Watts in and he could be just like, with no disrespect intended to Talos, but he could be another Talos. You just put him in a tag team and let him just kind of sit and, wait. So I don't know. I would love to see Watts in the NWA. In fact, I had that discussion just the other day with some people. I would love to see Watts in the NWA, and I'm kind of surprised that didn't happen. But, it never say never, I guess. And then again with Rob Terry, I mean, that dude was a beast. But so was Chris Adonis, and he never really got a serious run with the NWA World Heavyweight title. National title is one thing. Excuse me. National title, we see that all the time. But the World's Heavyweight title, that's a little bit different. Thoughts on the WWE releases? I've seen a few of them. I know that former world champion Jinder Mahal got released. I know that... I can't remember her name. She was the Chinese born wrestler. And I think they just released Cameron Grimes. And look, there's a lot of talent. And that's the thing. We're in a point in time now where there's so much opportunity for wrestlers that there never was before. There is a multiple wrestling economy that's happening. It's not just the WWE. It's not just, a lot of you guys grew up in the same era that I did where you had your Monday Night Wars. I was a little bit older. I was a teenager, young adult during those Monday Night Wars, but there was 2 viable options for you to work. There was even technically a third with ECW. You just knew you weren't going to get paid as much, right? And the era before that, you know, when I was growing up as a kid, there was the AWA, the WCW, NWA, and the WWE. And, you know, obviously you evolve or die, and the other promotions died. And we have, in this current state of wrestling, there's so many opportunities, not just in the United States, but in Mexico and Japan and the UK. There's a lot of opportunity, and there's so much talent. There's such a huge wealth of talent that I wouldn't be surprised if there's another promotion that opens up very, very soon. You know, we heard about Freddie Prinze Jr. with his, he has this idea for wrestling promotion, and a guy like Jinder Mahal would be somebody I think should be on his very short list. Could Jinder Mahal come to the NWA? 100%, man. He'd be a fantastic in the NWA. However, does he really fit in the NWA model? He's going to want a lot of money. At least I would assume so. It seems like he might have burned bridges with the AEW before that ever became an opportunity for him. Could he end up in New Japan? Sure. Hell yeah. Of course. They'd love to have him. Could he end up in TNA? It seems where a lot of WWE guys go there. I feel like there is a ton of talent right now. And Paladin said, rumor is Vince is going to start another company. I've heard that rumor too. It doesn't make sense to me. You're like approaching 80. You've got a lot of commitments from this, you know, financial commitments going into this trial. You know, he could lose everything. I don't think it's a good idea. Let's see. Corgan needs to talk to Redbird Capital. Rosville, what's Redbird Capital? I have no idea what that is. Thank you, Tony Khan, for the second golden era of wrestling. Yeah, look, we make a lot of fun of AEW and Tony Khan on the Alliance Guys podcast, but I'm here to tell you, like, I very much love the fact that Tony Khan has AEW. I very much love the fact that there's another option out there for wrestling right now. And let's be honest, if there was no Tony Khan, there would be no AEW, and Ring of Honor would probably be a distant memory. So he is trying to do things. Whether you enjoy AEW or not is almost not important. The fact that Tony Khan is trying to produce an alternative to the WWE, to give wrestling fans an alternative content, I think is great. And the fact that the wrestling economy has benefited hugely from that Khan money, you know, you can't even disagree with me on that. That's not even open for debate. If you don't think that Tony Khan has made wrestling better because of his influence and because of the big money contracts, then we can't even have a conversation. Meltzer said that there isn't enough free talent. I mean, there's so much free talent. You know, and we're just scratching the surface when we talk about guys who were released from the WWE or AEW or TNA wrestling. I mean, there's so many guys out there who are hungry. The independents. I mean, look, he's been on the show. Bad Dude Tito. Why isn't he signed to a big money contract somewhere? Danny Limelight. Why isn't he signed to a big contract somewhere? Silas Mason. You know, there's so many guys out there. There's such good, credible talent out there. I feel like there is room for that. Yeah, indies. A ton of talent on the indies. Razo said it would be brilliant to book Jinder Guy in AEW. I mean, look, if Tony Khan could swallow pride and bring in Jinder Mahal and have maybe Jinder Mahal take the title off of Jericho, the FTW title, I think that'd be awesome. Will we see wrestlers from Exodus Pro and JCP on any power tapings? Willie, we're already starting to see that. You've seen Carson Drake and Lord Crewe previously had appeared on Power. Carson Drake, I believe, has been one of the talents discovered by Exodus Pro. Might be mistaken on that, but I'm almost confident that's where he was discovered. The Slime Balls, is that their name? I always forget those guys' name. I believe they were also discovered by Exodus Pro. The Stew Crew, we've seen the Stew Crew show up, and they are a product of Joe Kazana Promotions. We've also seen guys like, a couple weeks ago, Silas Mason's cousin. I can't remember what name they gave him, but he showed up. And before that, his former tag team partner, Dixon, is also from Joe Kazana Promotions. So yeah, I mean, you are seeing that. You are seeing that happen, and I think you're going to see more. Like I said, the Stu Crew will be on the next set of tapings. I'm not sure who else is showing up, but yeah. Now the investment firm behind their okay. You know, Rosville, I'll be honest, and this is just Jason talking out loud here, J Cal talking out loud. I feel like the UFL might be bought out by TKO. And it would kind of make sense if you're trying to start a large sports entity. You know, they have people who are good at working at contracts and licensing deals and making money in the sport of professional sports. Why not? They, you know, and I don't know how successful UFL is right now. I mean, I know that every time the XFL has ran, people are like, wow, this is awesome, but they can't seem to get the support needed to exist. And I know with Vince's XFL, it wasn't working, and the Rock's XFL, they needed to merge with the UFL. You know, this isn't a football podcast, but again, I feel like it makes sense to have people who are really good at running sports take care of this. Just my thoughts. I got into wrestling because of AEW. Palin, that's crazy to me because you seem to be a very knowledgeable wrestling fan, and I'm not speaking ill of AEW, but it seems like you've been around for longer than just the last 4 or 5 years that AEW's been around. Monet is now the highest paid women in wrestling due to TK. That helps all women. Exactly, 100%. I don't know that they've even put her in a match yet in AEW, but yeah, she's the highest paid. Let's see. Natalia Markova should get signed. I agree with that. Noob, I think there is a place. There's obviously a place for Markova. It seems like right now that's the NWA, but that doesn't mean it's always going to be the NWA. I think Limelight likes his freedom. I think if someone offered Limelight a contract, he'd sign it. No disrespect to Dave Marquez and the United Wrestling Network and everything that they're trying to do with Reality of Wrestling and everything else that's happening with Booker T and the United Wrestling Network. If someone wanted to give Danny Limelight a guaranteed contract to be a pro wrestler on Monday nights or Wednesday nights or Thursday nights or Friday nights, I think he would take it. You don't want to be a big fish in a small pond. You want to be a medium-sized fish in a big pond. I don't want any more WWE trash in AEW. We got so much. Yeah, I mean, kind of. I like Adam Copeland. I like Christian Cage. I think both those guys were great signs for AEW. I like Cage's run the last few years has been nothing short of spectacular. Probably better than anything he did as a singles in the WWE. And I think that carries a lot of weight. And if you're in the WWE and you see like the success of Christian Cage or Adam Copeland, it's very attractive to jump ship, right? If the opportunity comes up. Like I think of Kevin Owens, and people think I look like Kevin Owens. I think he's a very talented individual. It wouldn't shock me in the least if when his contract came up in the WWE that he jumped ship to AEW. But with that being said, I could also see him just sticking around in WWE as well. Tony Khan's dad is the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars of the NFL. I believe he also owns one of the Premier League soccer teams as well. Olberg said that he wouldn't touch AEW because it's too cheesy, but contacted TK wanting to work Sting's final match. So look, Goldberg is an anomaly. You know, he was a right time, right place kind of guy for WCW. In his first run with the WWE, he made a lot of sense. In the second run with the WWE, made less sense. His last run with the WWE was pointless. Goldberg was a cool commodity. It was cool for a minute. I think the novelty's worn off. Butts and seats is an issue. Yeah, exactly. I saw that today, Dave Scooby. The FTC voted no to ban non-compete clauses. That is certainly something I hope to hear you go into detail about on a future episode of the Other Alliance Guys, because I think like that could be a real game changer. How do you how do you how do you enforce that for pro wrestling, and how do you keep your talent from appearing elsewhere when they're still hot? Imagine the day after All In if CM Punk could have showed up in the WWE. Or now, with that being said, Seth Rollins, who's, I think he's injured and will be taking some time off, but he could show up in AEW at any time once his contract expires. That's going to force a lot of people to the wrestling promotions to look at how they are using their talent and locking them up for longer deals, I think. No match is the number one contender. Yeah, well, I mean, that's because it's Monet. I got into wrestling because of the NWA. Same here, Willie Bowen. Like, I got into the wrestling because of the WWE, but, as a kid growing up, I was always bouncing back and forth between. In my market, Fox was the market that we had, WWE superstars, and then I would flop over to the TBS on Saturday mornings at like 5:05 to watch Main Event, and then on Saturdays watching whatever the Saturday show was called. I can't remember. 6:05. I've been a fan of pro wrestling through the NWA since the 60s. Yeah, I get that. He also retired Hitman. Yeah. Let's see. TK does non-compete clauses. Usually he's a nice guy. Yeah, Goldberg started with WCW. Yes, he beat Raven. He beat Hogan. I was there the first night that they started his feud with Mongo McMichael down in San Diego. That was always a funny thing. Yeah, Drew did have a run in TNA. That's true. But that's getting close to. Oh, we got to talk about the matches. We haven't even talked about the matches tonight. So again, we have for tonight's episode of Power. It is going to be an interesting night because we're seeing a new tag team under the tutelage of Mr. Vampiro. By the way, over the weekend, I got to see Mecha Wolf in the ring against Bestia 666 as La Rebellion is no more. Of course, we saw Bestia take a leave of absence from the NWA and then eventually announce his departure from the NWA, not signing a new deal with them. And at the time when he left the NWA, the wrestling promotion, The Crash in Mexico, was, I guess, ending its relationship with Lucha Libre AAA. That's the promotion that's currently affiliated with the NWA. So Bestia basically said he was done working for AAA as well. And this definitely put a weird cog in the relationship between La Rebellion because they were teaming together in Mexico with AAA. They were teaming in the NWA as La Rebellion, Mecha Wolf, and Bestia. That ceased. Now, the group La Rebellion in the NWA was just Mecha Wolf and Bestia. But in Mexico, La Rebellion actually was a lot of wrestlers. And I plan on doing a podcast on this later in the week because there's a lot of details that go into it. But basically, Bestia, Mecha Wolf, the artist formerly known as Black Torres, Rey Horas, they were all a group called La Rebelión Amarilla. And that was a offshoot of basically the Perros del Mar, Perros del Mal, which was the group that was really, really popular in Mexico. So that it went through a lot of transitions and a lot of changes. Like I said, I'll try to get to that at some point in the next week or two to talk about it. But it was personified in the NWA just as Mecha Wolf and Bestia. But there's still a La Rebellion in Mexico, especially with the Crash. And so it was La Rebellion, which was Bestia, Deluxe, and Rey Scorpion versus Pagano, Mecha Wolf, and Rey Horas. And so it was a very different look. And Bestia's team, La Rebellion, ended up being victorious that night. So it was really cool to kind of see that. But yeah, so now there is a new tag team under the tutelage of Vampiro, which is Mecha Wolf and fellow Puerto Rican Alex Misery. The two of them faced off on Power a couple of weeks ago, but now they are teaming together. They're taking on the team of Talos and Daisy Kills as part of the U.S. Tag Team Tournament. That match will continue. That match will happen on this week's Power, with the winner advancing in that tournament bracketing. Also, tonight we will see that 6-person tag team matchup when we have Carson Drake teaming up with Dak Draper and Mims, Magnum Muscle, as they take on the 3 members of Miserably Faithful, Sal, or no, excuse me, I think it's Gaagz and Judais. Now I'm not even sure. Judais, Gaagz, and the both men and women's television champion Max the Impaler. So that should be kind of interesting. And then in the main event, we have Natalia Markova challenging for the upteenth time for the NWA Women's World Championship against Kenzie Page. Kenzie does everything. She just wins. And we haven't seen Kenzie even look in peril so far as women's champion. So it'll be interesting to see that how this match will play out with Markova and Kenzie. Obviously, these two have shared the ring something like 14 times in an NWA ring against one another. So I'm not sure. Again, I haven't seen these matches yet. I'll be watching them as soon as we go off the air here on our Discord channel. I hope you'll join us over there because we're going right now to watch the show. Let's see. Real quick before I end it, is Mims still trying to be a women's TV champion? I think Mims just wanted the men's title there, Paladin. And Gaagz says, I was just starting to forget that he was even here. Yeah. Well, once you think you're out, they bring you right back in. I do appreciate you guys being here with me on this Tuesday, of course. The other Alliance guys should be back tomorrow. That's Jeremy and Dave Scooby, as they'll be talking MLW, United Wrestling Network, some fantasy booking, and I hope you guys will tune in for that. And then, of course, on Thursday, it'll be Jaden, DKM, and myself, the OG Alliance guys, as we talk about all things pro wrestling and NWA. And then next Thursday, stay tuned. We'll have Royce Isaacs, former NWA World Tag Team Champion, join the Alliance Guys podcast, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So I hope you guys will hang out with us the next week or two and check out some more wrestling talk. But until next time, we'll see you at the matches. Thanks for checking out the Pre-Party, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. You should hit that subscribe button and join our community. I also want to remind you that we recap NWA Power every Thursday at 8 p.m. in the live stream. We try to stay social, so find us at the Alliance blog. And until next time,